I'm going to give you every bit of knowledge you really need to decide what type of 3D printer is best for you. Now that I own both an FDM and a resin printer, I'm so frustrated with the available videos on YouTube detailing the differences between the two. From what I've seen, all of them spew the same bullet points like they're reading from the printer's product brochure, and I can read all of that just fine from the Amazon listing. They give all sorts of technical specifications and the exact differences between extrusion and resin printing. Listen, the information I'm going to give you might as well be trade secrets gatekept by the 3D printing content creators that are not willing to be brutally honest with their viewers. If you're looking to get a 3D printer now or later on in the future, you need to know the main differences between FDM or extrusion and resin printing. They may both be 3D printers, but their intended functions relate more like a pen and a paintbrush. The pen being FDM or extrusion printers, and the paintbrush being resin printers. Some content creators will even go as far as printing the same object in extrusion and resin as if there's anything valuable somebody who's totally new to 3D printing can get from it. Going back to that comparison I made earlier with the pen and the paintbrush, sure, you can write words with a paintbrush or draw pictures with a pen. But it's clear that both of these things are perfectly suited for different tasks. You'd use a pen to write an essay for school or maybe take some notes. There's far less setup and cleanup, but if you're looking to draw, you just won't get the same level of detail as you would with a paintbrush and a full color palette. Of course, this greater detail comes with a greater learning curve and much more time and physical space dedicated to its operation. The importance of these distinctions boils down to one very simple question you should be asking yourself. What will I use my 3D printer for? Well, are you more interested in printing strong, functional items like this first ever prototype of a Cheez-It dispenser I invented? Maybe you need a greater variety of materials to work with, like polycarbonate or PETG or TPU. If you need a versatile workhorse machine that'll print reliably and print in many different materials, then an extrusion printer might be what you're looking for. If you're interested in printing with some of the highest level of detail that the 3D printing space can offer, a high-resolution resin printer will leave you impressed every single time. But here's what most 3D printing content creators don't even bother to tell you guys. I'm going to be extremely clear about this. When it comes to resin printing, there's a lot more setup, maintenance, troubleshooting, and physical space dedicated to its operation. It's messy, really messy, and the fumes are toxic. You'll need a dedicated space to handle those prints and wash them. You'll need another space to cure them. You need to handle resin with care and wear gloves and a mask at minimum while handling it. It's a more involved process, and to top it off, resin printing is much more finicky and prone to failure for various reasons. Now, before the 3D printing experts chime in, I know that relatively fine detail can be achieved with an extrusion printer, but it takes a whole lot of fine-tuning, test prints, and messing with settings on your slicer to be able to get those results, and it's just not feasible for someone starting out in the hobby. One thing I do want to add though is that if you're going to be printing functional parts and printing multiple iterations quickly, in quick succession, one after another, an extrusion printer is going to be your go-to. Overall, 3D printing is so much more accessible now, both financially and technologically, than it ever has been, and I'm all for it. I love it. I think everybody should have one. I think it's such a great tool to motivate people to create things from nothing, basically. Rolls of plastic. It blows my mind every single time that you can create like actual things from spools of plastic or bottles of resin. Like, that's just so crazy to me. That's like some sci-fi stuff. It kind of reminds me of the game Subnautica, where when you craft something, the crafting table just materializes that object from nothing, from like bottom to top. It'll just go like, and the item will just be there. That's what that reminds me of. But as science fiction and technologically advanced as it may seem, you might be surprised to hear that it doesn't take an engineer to do it. Anybody can. Like with any new hobby, it takes research and an open mind. Just do things and see where it leads you. Thankfully, it seems you've already got that part down if you're watching this video, and what's even better is that my previous video on how I broke and repaired my 3D printer could give you some insight into a very common problem for resin printers. If you enjoy my content, please choose to support me by clicking subscribe, liking, and commenting on my videos. Just a few clicks to you will make a world of a difference to me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.